Now, moving forward to 7th and 8th grade, this is actually going to be very similar. And I'm not going to rehash all the same material. But the only variance is obviously for us as educators and looking at lesson plans. Obviously there's differences between an adolescent level of a 12, 13, 14-year-old to a high school student. So in terms of the amount of work or lesson time, there's definitely some variance. But we're using the exact same tool in terms of Google Classroom, and the same expectation from a teacher standpoint is that students have 7 classes in a day in terms of their core classes, and they have their 3 electives. So once again, each individual teacher is going to present a lesson that will be put in Google Classroom on Mondays. That will then carry the new learning for the week. So they'll get those 7 new lessons on the essential learning standards that they'll work through throughout the course of the week. So very similar. The only difference from our standpoint was really just the amount of time. There is some variances in terms of middle school students. The one thing that I want to point out is that our goal is to actually work very closely together as we do this. Even though each teacher has the autonomy, obviously, when working in the classroom, to provide instruction, and they still have that autonomy of how they want to convey information. We're trying to create really a sense of alignment across our grade levels and our content levels, and also ease some of the work. This work is not easy because it's a lot of new learning, but also we're not together. We're all doing it from our homes, and which definitely creates some challenges for us. And so we're trying to create a system that we can make the work a little more palatable, getting through, and just kind of ease some of that load on each other's shoulders. So what we're asking is for instance, that all 7th grade math teachers are going to be working on lessons that are going to be presented to all 7th graders for the week, or for 8th grade English. And that also will help us guide and know what each and every student was exposed to during this time period, so that when we begin planning and we have to identify gaps, we at least will know these are the things that all students and the lessons that they were exposed to. So that's going to help us do a better job of planning, and that's going to be really the important and really hard work when we get these young folks back in our buildings in the fall. Is really being intentional about putting a plan together to identify the gaps that they're occurring during this time they're out of school. We're going to help to try to work to minimize that, but it's definitely something we're going to have to be very intentional in working to address. Also, I just want to make note that in the paper pencil mode is that our goal is to get these mailed out home on Fridays, and so that over the weekend they would get them maybe on Monday, maybe Tuesday at the latest. But we have a process there that we're going to be working to get things printed off and getting them put together and getting them to homes. So I didn't touch on that in the previous slide, but that's our goal, is to get things out on Friday. So then the next week, students will have those, so they can begin working. So once again, the middle school model looks very similar to the high school model. And now I'm going to focus on the K-6, which is our elementary, and there's definitely a little bit of a shift here that you'll notice. And the first shift, which is significant, is we're not going to be using Google Classroom. We are going to be using a tool that's called Seesaw, and we know that a lot of parents and a lot of students have opportunities to work in Seesaw. We know Country Elementary has been a big supporter and user of Seesaw for several years. I think going back to when Dr. Sharon was a principal several years ago, really instituting that, and that translated to Navigator. And we have some teachers at Navigator who've been using it as well, and then there's been some teachers at Farley as well. But now we're doing a whole K-6, which is great because we're going to look to utilize this tool from here on out. So from starting now, every K-6 teacher, student, and even parent is going to have the opportunity to utilize Seesaw. And if you haven't used it, it's a great tool. It's got an app on your phones, utilize on your computer. Great way to communicate, not only just teachers, but principals. Principals have an opportunity to communicate with students, with parents, with teachers, and it's very user friendly. It's appropriate for the grade level, for the adolescent developmental level, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity to maximize this tool for our students and our families. And so Seesaw is going to be the tool that we're going to push work through. And the other variance you're going to see is that obviously students K-6 are not set up traditionally like a secondary level in terms of having 7 class periods. Obviously they have content that they're working on in math, English, social studies, and science. They have their specials. They do not have elective classes per se, but they do have their specials, and that's how this model is going to be focused on. And as you're going to see on the left part of our screen, that pillar under lessons, what we're going to ask, because we really want to focus on those skills of reading, writing, and math. Those are the essential building blocks. And not to say that science and social studies are not important, because they are. Our goal is to really focus on ELA and math with embedding math and science whenever possible. We already do that. If you've been involved in a Journeys reading program, you're going to see a lot of the reading content that the students have to participate in involve cross-content topics that involve social studies, science, the vocabulary they use. And so our hope is that we can continue on with that as much as possible. So what we're going to have are teachers at the K-6 level are going to provide 2 ELA lessons per week, and then 2 math lessons. And so there's going to be 4 with those 2, with hopefully some embedded social studies and science as well. And those are going to be pushed through Seesaw with the activities that are going to correspond with that. And then we're also asking each special to provide a lesson as well. And obviously it gets a little bit more challenging. When you're looking at art, physical education, and music and technology. But there's definitely some opportunities for students to be involved, to be engaged, to learn something new. So they're going to get 7, 8 lessons per week that they can work through from their teachers. And so that's a little bit different than what we were asking from the secondary level, because obviously the structure at elementary is a little bit different. But that's our goal. Obviously we're always encouraging reading at home as much as possible. And also these teachers are going to be able to adapt and to add some flexibility to this as well. So this is our starting point with our elementary students, and we're in a process of getting all our teachers trained with Seesaw this week. In terms of then we're going to talk a little bit about the rollout next week in just a few slides down this presentation. But we're excited for this. At the same time, we're going to have paper and pencil opportunities for our students at the K-6 level as well, to encourage building their skills and the essential learning that we want to make sure happens for the remainder of the year.